But, who knows what the next top is? I don't think there is going to be a well-formed FOMO bubble top anymore.
I want you to picture for a moment exactly what your life would look like if you were a millionaire. The truth is, you would have a lot of the same concerns, consistently working hard to grow as a person and develop fruitful, loving relationships all around you. Your greatest concern in life would still be your health and the health of those around you. There would be one main difference though, and it's an important one. You would no longer have to worry about money. You would have the freedom to do what you wanted, when you wanted. You would have control. Financial freedom is the freedom to be able to make choices. The choices about what you do with your most precious resource, your time, who you spend it with, and where and what you do with it. I want you to open yourself up as we begin to talk about what it takes to become rich trading. Traders are often very concerned with how much money they can make and how quickly they can make it. And each day and each trading session is approached as almost the improbable or impossible. The reason I want to share this formula with you is because it's very important to have the correct mindset, the mindset of an investor. And it's important to focus on this formula for the bigger picture. And this is going to help you to be able to execute, which is what you need to do in order to achieve your goals. You need to be able to execute. So let's take a look. Starting with a $3,000 balance. How do you get there? How do you achieve your goals? Where are you starting from? If you're starting with just a $3,000 balance today, and you are committing to making for the next 5 years, regularly, yearly, another $3,000 deposit, what is that? Like $260 or so a month. Go ahead and take a look, and the rate of return. Holding Bitcoin, what do you think you could do? What do you think you could achieve yearly? Now we know historically the average return of Bitcoin, yearly return of Bitcoin is something around 200%. Right? But that's including when prices started going from a penny and then to $1. What happens if you take out and use from 2012 to today? I think the average rate of return annually is something closer to about 120%. I would like to see that. I would like to know actually. Take a look at some of these numbers. This just happens to be the first choice on DuckDuckGo for Bitcoin average yearly return. And 2017, 1300, 2020, 300, that's, 2019, 87, and 2018, 72. These two cancel each other out. You're looking over 4 years, 1600 divided by 4. You're looking at 400% a year. There you go. Mean annual return, 400%, right? Absolutely astonishingly. And then I went over here and looked at this Reddit thread, and they're showing the percent change for every year into Bitcoin. It's a couple of down years. 2022, right? Good chance it's a down year as well. That's what I'm expecting. Not being invested, whether that's worth it to you during these bear market years, it could have a significant change in your overall accumulation. That's for some more advanced stuff. So you can see, even if we did experience something like drastically diminishing returns, instead of 400% over the last 4 years, maybe we're looking something forward at like 200%. But even if we only get 70%, what happens if you use something realistic? What happens if you use something like a 30% return over the next 5 years in Bitcoin? You're looking at taking a total deposit over 5 years, $18,000, and growing your account to $46,000. That's only over a 5-year period. But it's also with a 30% return. I think that I personally expect to achieve over a 70% return annually in Bitcoin over the next, 10 years? Absolutely. So let's take a look at that. Let's make that 10 years, 70%. I think underestimating greatly over there. We'll see. We don't know. I think it's safe. I think it's safe to work out my plan using 70% expected return over the next year annually in Bitcoin over the next 10 years. And then you're taking that $33,000, you're turning it into $2 million. Now, $2 million is comfortable. You could basically buy whatever you want whenever you need it. Really very comfortable. But the thing is, when I first started doing this, I did this with 11 years. It was an 11-year plan with 3 halving events. And if you really want to plan this out correctly, starting today with $3,000, you could go ahead over the next 11 years, expect to have 3 more halving events. Next one, it's every 210,000 blocks. Next one, estimate 20,000 24, 20,000 28, 20,000 32. But the thing is the bull market happens the year after the halving. So you're going to want to make this a 12-year plan, 70% annual return. Now you're looking, total deposits over those 12 years, $39,000, $3,000 a year. You're committing to this plan, to your investment plan. And then you're looking at, $5 million if we hit our expected 70%. Anything can happen. Understand your risk and what your risk is before you make any investment, and do not invest any more than you could afford to lose. But make sure you make calculated risks. Is this a calculated risk? Now, if there was just an 85% annual return in Bitcoin over the next 12 years, you would be looking at something, $15 million. That's, from here on up, you go on, borderline ridiculous for a 12-year plan. So, but, 70%, 12 years, next 3 halvings, you're starting today. $5 million is rich. $2 million, you're definitely comfortable, no question about that. But $5 million, I would say that it's a great plan to have in place. I think it's foundational, fundamental, that anyone beginning before anything else should have this plan in place. And then you could go ahead and leverage different investments. Bitcoin from the 2016 halving up until 2017 bull market. This was the mid-cycle breakout from what was the most important trend line in crypto. You see here a 270% return. That's just coming into that line here in July, 4 years ago, July 2017. You could see what unfolded from there was this massive, massive bull market breakout. And it included 2 waves. Now, if you followed all of the crucially important work CTM was doing towards the end of March, early April, you know exactly what I'm talking about right now. We are looking at potentially 2 more waves up until liftoff and the blow off top cycle peak. I believe that there's going to be this year, 2021, a blow-off cycle top in Bitcoin. Until the model breaks, I have to assume the model's correct. Coming out of what is the low point, the lowest price point of mid-cycle, we have a model that is showing us that we're looking at approximately 150 days towards that cycle top. It happened in the previous 2 cycles, approximately 150 days to the cycle top. Ian has been able to illustrate this with this beautiful artwork, his chart work over here showing, lining everything up from the lowest price point of the mid-cycle dip, something that we've been looking forward to doing this entire shakeout. Remember, prior to the shakeout, we're looking for a possible shakeout mid-cycle. Here it was a big dump and then a 2-month consolidation. Price now coming out of there on scale with the previous cycles, something that we were potentially, or something that we were really, CTM modeling crew, expecting to occur. Here it is occurring. What happens next? Potentially, right? We don't know. All we know is what happened in the past. And we know in the past, at this particular time in cycle, 2 different times from this particular point, there was approximately 150 days to the cycle peak. And within those 150 days, there were 2 waves, wave 1 and wave 2. And those 2 waves set up what we've named, what Ian appropriately named liftoff, coming into that last blow off top cycle peak over there. So you have 2 waves, wave 1, wave 2, approximately 60 days, 2 months in length, each of them. Now, this is not to say this is going to happen. We don't know. This is all we know that has happened in the past. Up until this point, what has happened in the past has repeated very similarly with Bitcoin. It's why I positioned in prior to that bull market. We were able to time that breakout of the bull market through technicals. And then we were able to trade that and stay on the right side of this, lining that up with technicals. But it's the 4-year cycle roadmap that gave us that edge the whole entire time. Here's what it's saying, is that this is what we're looking. We have been setting up for the past several months, this very particular point in time, foreseeing what will be happening. And it has occurred according to our expectations. Everything has continued to unfold. And here we are coming out of it. Now and the whole reason we've been working together to get this type of accuracy is to be able to take advantage of these next two moves into the close. Now, for most people, again, just buying Bitcoin and holding it to the cycle peak is by far the best thing you can do. That's a good time preference. That right there is a short time preference. Understand your risks, understand how much you're willing to risk, where your stop loss is, have a plan before you make any type of investment decision. Now, what's the worst thing that could happen? A lot of people are looking for this not to occur. There's a lot of people out there engaging in some really good conversations about what and how they feel this is going to unfold. We started this video off with Willy Woo. He's saying he does not believe that there's going to be a blow off top. He doesn't believe that we're going to see this type of price behavior this cycle. And more or less what he's looking at as price just continues this random walk up towards $1 million. And if that happened, that's fantastic and that's great. We will know pretty soon if that's a theory that we should be following much more closely soon enough. By the end of 2021, it's 5 months away. We have Ben putting out really good conversation about lengthening cycles. Also good conversations about diminishing returns. Why does it matter? Why does it matter? If we are experiencing diminishing returns, then we want to be following a roadmap, a guide that is giving us that clarity that we could position in and out, right? If you're just buying Bitcoin and holding it for the next 10 years, you don't have to do anything. You could walk away. But if you're trying over those next 2 years where you already have that fundamental plan in place to acquire as much Bitcoin as you can and doing it in a very calculated, risk-averse way, then it really matters to understand these price movements. 150 days, that's a small time frame to be looking at and considering for this type of investment. By the way, what happened coming out of that mid-cycle shakeout? We looked at the beginning of this video, price coming in 2016 from breaking out of the trend line of what was then the most important trend line in crypto, and then over the next 150 days peaking, it had a 7x return. That's substantial to be timing a trade that has a potential for a 7x. Now, I don't think that's going to happen this time personally. Right? That's not what I'm seeing when I look at price. And let's just make sure that, look at this beautiful price action coming out of what was the most important trend line in crypto. By the way, also happening 4 years ago in July. Right? And then you could see price coming up and you put in wave one, right? Wave one is beautiful wave over there, really taking out that all-time high and then really projecting above it, and wave one is put in. And then you see wave two, again, another 60 days. And it's tremendous. It's tremendous. If you're like trading and only used to traditional markets and don't understand the bullish case for Bitcoin and the 4-year cycle in Bitcoin, for sure you've taken profits already. There's no way that you took profits here and you've been out of this trade, for a while because you can't get back in. If you're trading traditional markets, this is not traditional markets. This is Bitcoin. It is crucial to understand when dealing with coded monetary policy around human psychological behavior, what has happened in the past in order to make that your best guide going forward. It doesn't mean the past behavior is going to repeat itself. It's definitely not going to. But you have this rhythm, this rhyme to go off of. And you can see out of that next 60-day period, then price hit that lift-off stage, that 35 days into the peak, and it's massive. That's vertical. That's FOMO. That's a blow off top over here. This is part of the 4-year cycle of Bitcoin. And until it no longer occurs, I have to assume that it's going to. That's what's fantastic about models. You know when they're wrong. And then you're able to go ahead and manage your risk as best, moving forward. From that mid-cycle breakout to the top, there's approximately, I'm gonna call it a 7x. Close enough. If I lined it up, that's what we get. 7x is substantial. What are we seeing in this current cycle? Last cycle, we saw 270% into July, into what was the most important trend line in crypto, and then the breakout. It's different this time. We are seeing from the halving in 2020 up into that very most important trend line in crypto. Now, we haven't broke out to the upside yet, and we don't know when we will. But assuming we were to break out this next week, what you'd be looking at is a 387% return from that halving into that most important trend line in crypto. That's a substantial difference. You could see that so far this cycle is outperforming the last. Now, we attribute that to the uber easy monetary conditions, to the continued $120 billion of QE purchases monthly. That's just out of the Federal Reserve, ECB matching pace, and the worldwide central banks are just having that race to zero when it comes to the purchasing power of fiat. What happens coming out of this? Are we going to see a 7x, right? Or are we going to perhaps see something greater than a 7x, as we have up until this point been outperforming the previous cycle? Do we expect that, as in 2012, 2013 bull market, the peak outperformed? Here we go. We have Ian's chart once again. The 2012 cycle, you can see here in 2013, peaking higher. This is 11x, an 11x, 7x. Are we going to see something like a 9x, something in the average of the two? As we've seen up until this point, this cycle has been an average in volatility to the upside. It's been an average of the two cycles in volatility to the downside. And as far as consolidation and sideways so far up until this point, it's been an average of the two. Will the return also be a 9x? Or will it be towards the lower range? Will it be a 7x or below? Could we see something like $160,000? Anything $200,000 and below is diminishing returns. Could we see $160,000 or $140,000? That's where I've done the math. So that's all my goals for this 2020 cycle have been met and achieved at $140,000. It doesn't mean I'm going to take profit there. If I see December of this year that price is trading within this range, I'm going to be watching it and leaning into my price action skills to make sure that I am able to get as close to the top of this cycle peak as possible. Because everything above $140,000, everything above $160,000, everything above $240,000 or $320,000, that is all the whipped cream with sprinkles and the hot fudge and the caramel and the cherry on top, and I want it all. If I can get it, I want it all. I will take what the market gives me though. Now, if we go from here, continue to go sideways and don't break, $100,000 in 2021, and maybe that takes into 2022, I will be consulting other models if this model shows that it's broken. The bullish case for Bitcoin remains the same. The fundamental foundational plan is already in place. It's at the beginning of this video. Now we have the opportunity to go ahead and have this insane sharp accuracy that CTM has been holding on to and setting up. We're going to make sure we crush it. We're going to make sure that we crush. That's what we're doing here. There's a substantial difference. There's a big difference between starting out with $3,000. And it doesn't matter if you're starting out with $3 or $3 million or $300,000, $30,000 or $3,000. It's all the same. There's a big difference between starting out with $3,000 in the first year, or if we do have a 7x from here, if we do have a 9x from here. What would a 7x be? This would be $21,000 you're starting off with 11 more years to go. That's a significant difference than that $5 million, which is already wealthy, which is already rich. $10 million is a big difference. And that's why it matters. Forget, that's just if it's a 7x, by the way. If we do have a 9x and you're able to get out near that top, it's a significant difference, and it just continues to grow and compound the more time you put behind it. Because if you add another 5 years, which is going to come regardless, you're looking at some ridiculous wealth, generational wealth. And that's the goal. That's it. CTM has done already a tremendous job in helping people turn their lives around, create millionaires, right? But what we're looking at is the bigger picture over here. We'll have a lot more people, I'm sure of it, 4 years from now than today, that have gone on to do absolutely extraordinary things. But the amount of focus we're putting on in this particular time on time preference, understanding what years you're working towards, and actually having out that planned goal that you could execute on, that's what we're doing here. I mean, CTM is going to have family offices all over the place. And that's amazing. That's profound. Think about that today when you get the opportunity. Mic check, mic check. What's going on, everybody? This is Jordan with Conquer Trading and Investing. Welcome. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're not, welcome back, right? We put out high quality content. Last week was a masterclass each and every day, complete in just those 4 days. If you didn't have the opportunity to watch these videos, bulls will see new all-time highs this cycle. The Bitcoin's bullish mid-cycle. Market timing, Bitcoin impossible, you say. Bitcoin next price level, insane levels. And this one too. The bears need to defend this Bitcoin price level. These are all in themselves. It's a lot of information to take in. And there's nothing else like it that I see being shared out there on the internet. I highly recommend you subscribe to the channel. Help us get to 100,000 subscribers over here. Help us get to 100K, and that you invest the time before you do anything else. Watch these new videos, and then in the Telegram, in the description below is a Telegram link. I'll let you know whenever we go live over here. You can keep up daily, but you got to go back and you got to watch this content that we've put out so that you can understand where we are. CTM affects the most people out there, making a visible effect in their trading and investing abilities. End result is their account balances. I want you to join us. I want you to join us. Before we start looking today, we're going to take a look, focus on the technicals. We're going to look at short-term trading, what's going on over here as short sellers are taking control. We'll look at the bullish case for Bitcoin. We're going to be looking at Ethereum outperforming Bitcoin and what it means for my second alt season view. We're going to do all that together this session. But before we begin, I just hope you all are having a beautiful morning. I hope you had a great weekend, feel well rested, ready to do what we do over here, right? It's simple logic. We look at the markets, we make sure that we have that plan in place, and we do whatever it takes to stay on the right side of the market, the right side of the trade. Thanks for being here together. You saw, if you didn't see, right? CTM, they're putting out what is the very similar. Over here, Will's putting out what he thinks happens next on Bitcoin. He's saying he gets that idea, right? I thought it was from Preston, right? And like, Will, that's beautiful stuff over there. It's very on point. We're putting out very similar work, except it's a lot more accurate. It's what CTM do. We're aiming for that. Look at these models, Ted, Ian, CTM modeling crew. Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff, adding a lot. Let's take a look as when the bears triggered over there, right? Bears have a trigger. I put out, I guess it was a couple of days earlier, that the bears never had a trigger up to this point, right? If you're selling at that point before we broke below this trend line, you are dead wrong. And people were looking at the most important trend line in crypto to see what happens next. Since then, we've broken down. Let's take a look at it together. Here's the bearish case for Bitcoin. Let me jump into real time, and you can see on the 2-hour time frame, we've taken out that trend line, and now bears have their trigger. Wait, I don't like this view. What are we looking at over here? Let me bring it back to real time. Let me get set up over here with you. Here's where I want to start off with you. The bearish case for Bitcoin. Remember I said I don't know if this angle holds or not. We have a breakdown, a retest, and a resumption off right now taking place on Bitcoin. The sellers are taking control. What does that mean? You can hear it is very clear with the candles. You see the breakdown, the retest right into that broken trend line support. This time it's holding as resistance and price is resuming off. It's extending off. So right now the bulls, after taking out, the breakout, retest, resumption off of this descending wedge. And we said prior to it breaking out, if it breaks out, we're expecting us to run into what? The most important trend line in crypto. That's what happened. And we said, if that happens, that's the bear's opportunity to put up a fight. This is the battle that mattered. The bear, it didn't make sense to fight down here. Let everyone knew that ahead of time as it was developing. And we said, if the bears are going to put up a fight, here's what will make more sense. And I told people selling in this area, just be careful selling into support, just as you don't want to buy into resistance. Always wait for the breakout of the level, right? Or the breakdown of the level to go ahead and be trading towards that momentum, being able to manage your risk the best. It's all about managing your risk, right? It's all about managing your risk. So what happens now? Now we see the sellers are in control and we're waiting for the bulls to put up a fight. Now, will that be something extended? Does the possibility exist that the sellers could take this all the way down over here? Let me go ahead and paint this. Could take this all the way down, right? Could they come all the way down and test this area of it? The next bit of support horizontally is coming in around that area. right? And all this area is all support. Yeah, that's possible. That would be what I think is probably one of the most bearish cases for Bitcoin on a short-term perspective. That's the goal of your shorting over here, right? And then you would take profit, and then you would be holding a small piece on to see if you push down further, right? Could bears make new yearly lows? Possibility. Of course they can, right? What about if you're a buyer? What are you looking to do? We need to line up the bullish case for Bitcoin. You can see the angle, very sharp, the trend line angle over here. Remember, we are at CTM. We're focused on the most important trend line in crypto. That's above us right over here. As we get above, when we get above, that's when momentum should really carry forward and take Bitcoin to relatively soon to its new all-time highs. It's the first wave. This is all assuming, by the way, we are assuming that the low is in. We don't know that the mid-cycle low is in. The way that CTM is lining this up is assuming that the low is in for the mid-cycle. Now, we have a greater confidence as we break the most important trend line in crypto to the upside that that low will be in. Right now, obviously we haven't done that yet, and we're still waiting. You got to be patient because right now the bears, right, the sellers, they have the opportunity to take this thing down lower and maybe even see a lot of liquidations of people that are getting long on leverage, on margin at the wrong time. Why would I say it's the wrong time? Well, the right time was to do it, on the breakout retest resumption of the descending triangle, right? Taking some profit over here, getting back above, you reestablish the position. But this is heavy resistance. We don't know what's going to happen ahead of time, but where I expected that as price ran into there, it would first be rejected. That's what's happening right now. We're seeing an impulse to the downside. We know what it looks like for the bears the bulls to gain control. They simply have to break outside this trend line over here, and a break of this trend line should send us back into the most important trend line in crypto. We'll watch what happens from there. Are the sellers going to be able to bring this down further? We don't know. We'll be watching for it, and we'll see what happens next. What's going on next? The bullish case for Bitcoin is obviously very simple, right? Breaking this trend line over here, not only taking a run at the most important trend line in crypto, but breaking above it. And once we break above it, that's going to feel a lot better for our clarity. At that point, with a higher degree of confidence, we're going to be saying that the mid-cycle low is in. The golden ratio is held, and here we are really hyper-focused now with the work that CTM contributes together, that collective knowledge for making sure that we can be as accurate as possible into this cycle top. It matters whether or not you believe there's going to be a blow-off top in Bitcoin. It matters whether or not you think there's going to be lengthening cycles. It matters whether or not you think that there's going to be the 4-year cycle in play. And it matters whether or not you have an 85% drawdown in the coming bear market. It's all, there's a difference between building generational wealth and just there's nothing wrong with holding Bitcoin. We've done the math. We made sure that everyone has that first strategy in place. And in this opening today, in this video today, I showed you the difference between making over the next 12 years, 70% a year, right? Which is massive. We're talking about starting with $3,000, adding another $3,000 a year, $250 a month, and making over $5 million in 12 years. That is wealthy. That is rich. Now, will that be in 12 years? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if that's enough money. But you're on your way. For sure, you're on your way. Where does that bring us back to? I don't know. What's Jordan rambling about right now? Ethereum outperforming Bitcoin. Let's see what's next. Let's keep going. Let me go over to here and see what's next. This is, again, so important. Ian's work. It's always up on a tab, helping us, helping now as we believe we put the low in, as prices not only come up, what the model shows, and again, we're not looking for price to absolutely be a mean between these two. Is that a strong possibility that could happen? Of course there is. But as price, each day, puts in a new data point for us, we have more information going forward. It's easy to know when you're wrong. This is pointed out by Justin, I believe, tweeting this out yesterday, talking about a lot of people looking at Ethereum, Bitcoin. I wanted to tweet something out for you yesterday, but I wanted to wait for this episode and share it with you live. a lot of people looking at the break of this purple line over here. Is that purple or is that pink? I'm not really sure. Thinking now that Ethereum broke out versus Bitcoin. And, you know, Justin pointing out, look, this is the trend line that matters. Let's take a look at it. You can see it clearly over here. We're breaking above right now in real time, that trend line. You're seeing something new take place. We're going to talk about what it means. When I say you're seeing something new take place, is that Ethereum, which was expected to outperform, however, this portion of the cycle is not. Going back 4 years earlier, we had also a descending triangle like you see right here on this picture. And what happened was Ethereum broke down. Bitcoin was outperforming this portion of the cycle up until the very end, the last 3 weeks, where we saw alt season really take off. Now, from here forward, you have to consult the work that we did here in CTM. You know, the exit series that we did talking about alt season. Then you would have known ahead of time there were 2 alt seasons. When's the first one peaks and lining up the second? We expect, you know, alts to well outperform the next half of this bull market against the US dollar. It's a question of how they perform against Bitcoin. Right now, you're seeing something new take place. Let's take a look at it. By the way, the first repair happened all the way back over here. Right? This was a second repair, another repair, and a strong indication that anyone who's bullish on Ethereum at this point over Bitcoin, their case is solidifying. And if you remember, if you watch, there's so many important. Honestly, if you're not part of the training program, if you're not with us on the Discord, and you have not watched all the training videos that we put together, that I put together, whether it's how to trade and profit from the markets on a swing trader's perspective, focused on the currency markets so that you could trade all markets, or specifically the Bitcoin exit series, talking about what that cycle peak looks like, talking about how Bitcoin and altcoins react with each other. That stuff done months ago is everything that we said is playing out. That stuff is absolute fire. Anyway, let's keep going. I'm going to come back to this in 1 second. Here's a chart. Ian's beautiful artwork over here. I want you to focus your eyes. This is 4 years ago on Ethereum Bitcoin in this light green. And this is what was happening at this particular time of cycle. Now, why it's important is to see whether or not what's going to happen over here at the conclusion of this bull market. If there's going to be a massive alt season, a tradable event that you perhaps want to speculate in, when you have the potential over a month to perhaps make something that looks Ethereum Bitcoin 3x, you know, something like Cardano could potentially offer something like a 10x or more, right? You could see, what are you going to be focused in on why? And also, is that a sign that we are seeing the cycle peak in Bitcoin? If we see things continue to line up as we envisioned months ago, and then for myself talking about when the alt season would begin years ago, that Ethereum was going to outperform. Ian's been saying to us this whole cycle that what he believes is going to happen is that as you see this whole cycle in 2021, you see Ethereum and Bitcoin actually in sync with each other, with Ethereum outperforming. But that's different than 4 years ago when you saw Ethereum moving before and or after Bitcoin. Now they're in unison, and Ian's hypothesis was that would continue the rest of this market. Now, he doesn't know, but he knows very clearly if that were to break by watching the model. And that continues to happen here so far. Are we going to see what happened 4 years ago and actually this be a fake out on Ethereum, Bitcoin? Is this going to be a rejection? And are we going to see this actually Bitcoin outperform? And then even perhaps Ethereum, Bitcoin break down outside this descending triangle? It's still an open possibility. We're going to follow what happens on the charts though. That's what's going to give us the greatest accuracy. So we're watching this in here in real time. If we see Ethereum break out here to the upside and hold, that means that there's a good strong chance the rest of this bull market that Ethereum is going to continue to outperform Bitcoin. We'll be watching it. It's important, right? What would that mean for alt season? Are we not going to see a blow off top in Bitcoin, but in alts this? No, I don't think so. I personally don't think so. Is the blow off top in Ethereum going to happen at the same time as Bitcoin? That's what's important here. And if we see Ethereum break out to the upside over here, there's a stronger probability that you're going to see Ethereum not peak after Bitcoin, but at the same time. It's something that we need to be aware of and watch. And that's why we're focused on Ethereum, Bitcoin. All right. So over the next days, as we're getting this technical perhaps breakout over here, we are watching this closely to help us see what happens next. Ian updating the chart, and you can see what is different is that now instead of making lower highs, Ethereum has broken out over here, is making a higher high. Now that happened over here at this portion of the cycle 4 years ago, and then Ethereum really broke down. But what is different is that Ethereum 4 years ago did not break to the upside of that descending triangle. Let's look at it in real time. This is back in July 4 years ago, where my mouse is right now. You could see the descending triangle, and you could see that we broke down to the downside. If we break out to the upside, it's different. It potentially means to watch. A lot of speculators will be looking for alts to peak after Bitcoin. They could get hurt there if their knowledge of the 4 year cycles and the rhythm of these things are off. We were going to make sure that we stay as close to possible as being accurate as possible. All right, Ian, awesome stuff over there. Coin spotlight on Theta. Let's take a look at this over here. Theta serves as a native token for the blockchain-driven video sharing platform of the same name. I've never heard of it, Theta. I've never heard of the video sharing platform, Theta. Now, Theta was one of the altcoins. There were two. There were three. Link, Theta, and Ethereum. Is Ethereum an altcoin? Anything that's not Bitcoin is an alternative to Bitcoin, right? It's considered an altcoin, right? Now, so there were two other projects, going back a year ago when alt season was breaking out that I was focused in on. One of them was Theta, and I said I have no idea what they do. I just been watching these alts over the bear market and looking how they're reacting. The other was Chainlink, and then Ethereum, right? So it shows promise. This is, by the way, JP Morgan. They're trying to light the fire between high net worth investors. This is their crypto weekly report that they send out to their clients. And what they're saying is, watch this. This is enabling faster and transmission of cheaper high definition streaming, right? It shows promise of becoming a central part of the entertainment ecosystem. And then it's so weird with JP Morgan. Tesla revealed that it's holding Bitcoin worth This is for people who have a lot of money that really don't know the space at all. They're talking now, months later, that Bitcoin bought and then sold a little bit of Bitcoin, and then they move on. This is signal, by the way, and this is signal for us and something just to review, right? It's a big deal when Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, says that Bitcoin is going to be a big part of the company's future. Twitter is one of the biggest technology platforms out in the valley. And if they're fully adopting Bitcoin, that's a huge deal. And are they just the pioneer? Will you see Google, Alphabet? Will you see Facebook? And will you see these tech companies? It's crazy. What are the other ones? I don't even know. Facebook, Twitter. I got lost over there. Google. I guess that shows what I think of them these days. And that's entirely true. But if Twitter is joining there, how soon before these other companies also need to do the same, right? That's what we're watching. We're watching Signal. That's Signal all day. Almost $1 billion of crypto shorts were liquidated on Monday, right? If they were watching CTM, they would not have been. They would have known coming out of descending wedge how to manage their risk and where they were wrong, and they would have cut those losses short. That's for sure. You see a lot of channels out there. This is Theta, by the way, having so far this alt season, a 20x. What's it going to do the next half? This is the most important trend line in crypto. If you're speculating on alts and you're seeing that these investment banks are trying to, are they trying to trick people into speculating? I don't know if trick people into speculating is the right word. I have a feeling the people reading this weekly report don't really have a strong understanding of what's happening in the space. And when you see people talking about Theta, oh, have you ever heard of the platform? If you've heard of the platform, put something in the comments to let me know. I'm interested. I never heard of it before. I've heard of the project, but I didn't know that they have actually a streaming service. People stream on YouTube. People stream on Twitch. People stream on Facebook, right? I don't know, what type of adoption's taking place over here, or what that will look like in the future, or whether or not they're like providing a back end for all these other platforms. I have no idea. I focus in on the charts. And if I'm watching the charts, this is over here when I put out those videos in early December, letting you know, hey, it's been 6 months since the halving event, and now I'm seeing breakouts occur all across the alts. Here's the beginning of alt season. I know a lot of people at, months later, as alt season was peaking, they really started like FOMOing in, and they're loud about it, and people picking up and watching those channels. Can you imagine the disadvantage? But that's what happens, right? And then, you could see a 20x. What happened on Cardano? A 13x. Linked, by the way, is only like a 3x. Is Link something that you want to focus in on over here on in a chain link on the second half of this bull market? I mean, not in my opinion. If you're looking to speculate, you want to go where the speculation is strong. Lots of speculation taking place over here on Theta. Cardano also, is that an option if you're looking to play? Now, a lot of you are not. A lot of you are very methodical and smart about this. A lot of people watching CTM, part of CTM, and because of CTM, right? They're going to reach that goal this cycle. Rich, $5 million and above, wealthy. They're comfortable right now, right? And largely because of the work we've done here together. And that's absolutely phenomenal. We want to take as many people with us. Those people who are comfortable right now working on wealthy, they're not going to be speculating at the end of this bull market in alts. There's no way. Now you're going to have people there that want to reach that comfortable stage a lot quicker, and they believe that if they speculate in altcoins, they're going to get there quicker. And if you're smart about it, you can. Is it worth you joining the training program and watching the work that I did specifically on alt season, the massive second cycle peak, how to play it, how to line it up? It's worth its weight in gold. It's worth its weight in Bitcoin, right? Now, if you do it smart, it could be a huge advantage in actually speeding up the time frame that you're looking to accomplish what goals that we laid out in the beginning. But a lot of people, most of the people out there on the interweb, in crypto Twitter and whatnot, instead of actually increasing their Bitcoin position during this stage, are going to actually decrease it and or lose, and it's going to or just looking to hold for years for these things to hopefully come back. You have to get it right. We are talking approximately, from the way that we've done our view, 150 days. The clock's already ticking. The cycle low looks like it's already in, right? You got to make sure you get it right with the precision that we offer. And this brings us right here to the most beautiful chart in Bitcoin, right? By the way, listen, the previous two cycles you saw after the mid-cycle low was put in, over here in 2013, that price jumps up and then goes sideways to slightly down for a little while. Over here, slightly down to sideways for a while before making that that first wave of the two waves into liftoff beginning, right? Is that what's happening right now before us? This is our base case. Now, we don't know. We don't know if this is the low or not. If the bears are at the most important trend line in crypto right now are able to really put on a hold, right? And if they're able to gain momentum, bring it back down towards this 32,000 area, and then perhaps even take it down to new yearly lows, then at that point, we might see something like a capitulation low. That's what we would be looking for ahead of time, right? Most likely what happens is the bulls, and soon, are able to rally over here. Whether or not and for how long we consolidate, I have no idea. But is it looking probable this week that the bulls are able to go ahead and blast out of over here. That's my expectations. I believe that's what's going to happen. Obviously clearer. I'm watching, what happens down on the front lines. Here you go. I'm watching what happens down on the front lines, and I know the sellers just had a break over here. This is a damaged line broken, and we have the first damage since the breakout of the descending wedge, right? They have potentially the opportunity to take this thing lower. We'll see what they got. Right now is the opportunity to see what the sellers have in them, right? Do they have the desire? Do they have the fortitude? Do they have the belief and the confidence to make a stand over here? People are wondering what they're talking about with supply shocks, right? So the on-chain analytic guys, right? And obviously everyone knows that I'm a big fan of William and everything that he put out there. Everyone knows that I love Alan Au and the work that he does. And I think that on-chain analytics are a really good way to affirm what is the fundamental case of Bitcoin. The fundamentals, Bitcoin doesn't have fundamentals, was the rallying cry of those who don't know or don't understand a long time ago. Bitcoin has fundamentals, right? Strong fundamentals. And not only that, we know what they are ahead of time. We know Bitcoin's monetary supply, into the future. It's not some men in a secret club in a dark room deciding what happens and then deciding how they're going to double speak us, right? It's coded monetary supply. I lost my thought. Oh, the supply shock, right? So I think that the on-chain analytics really provide. I don't want to say look, the charts don't lie, and price alone is all that matters. And I think that trading price alone is the greatest asset. It's why when we were mid-cycle that we were able, in our understanding of the 4-year cycle, to keep that calmness, that understanding, and just to understand that situational awareness of what was happening and why. It was consulting the past cycles, and there were very few that got it right. There were very few that got it right, and some of the on-chain analytics guys were among them. Willie Wu was one of them, right? And William and Alan are the others. 3 of them strongly got it right, right? As far as the TA people, very few got it right, right? Very few got it right. There are a few out there I've mentioned before. Crypto Burb. Forgive me if any pronunciations are wrong. We had Misconfig, the year of the bull, with that strong awareness in the heat of the battle. Not showing that fear and uncertainty. A lot of people feeling that fear and uncertainty, talking about some crazy things. Who else were there? If I'm leaving some names out, Kylo or something like that on Twitter. He's the only other one out there really getting it right. So where does that bring us? Supply shock. Supply shock is kind of like a catchy phrase right now. That's all, right? Was there a supply shock going on early in July of 2017 when we saw the same behavior occurring? Let me bring it back over here and talk so I can visually see what we're talking about, so you all understand what I'm talking about as I talk about it. Let me do it on the daily, right? Was there a supply shock happening over here? We looked at it at the beginning of this video. This is the halving. This is July, the most important trend line in crypto, and price really jumping over here. No, there wasn't a supply shock taking place as far as I'm concerned. I mean, does it play a role in it all? Is signal understanding that year over year, cycle over cycle, Bitcoin is distributed into wallets and into hands that are looking to hold Bitcoin for longer and longer time frames? Absolutely no question about it. Is it what caused this immediate reaction that causes it every 4 years at this particular time to occur? I'm not so sure about that. I don't really think it matters. I'm not caught up in the supply shock, in the buzzwords. It's something we were looking to happen before it happened, and here it is happening. And I said that at the cycle peak. At the cycle peak, we'll be watching the price action. We'll be watching the timing, and we'll do our best to exit the cycle peak. But afterwards, everyone's going to have a narrative for it. everybody's going to have a narrative for it. We're just going to make sure we're ahead of the game. And a lot of these on-chain analytic guys, some of them are strong in TA, like Alan Au, and others are not, like Willy Woo, right? He doesn't have a strong awareness of TA, perhaps TA terms and technical and terms and definitions, theory, academic stuff, for sure. Great stuff, thumbs up, right? But, you know, if what obviously Willy's plan is exiting or has been exiting after the breakdown of the bull market, and then if there's a spike up. Now you would have seen what happened over here, you know, recently. That didn't happen. Is this the spike up? No, that's not a breakdown. Spike up. Whether if he's not going to see a blow off top, it's going to be hard to exit the cycle peak, or maybe you're not looking to exit the cycle peak anymore and just looking to hold Bitcoin, you know, as it continues over the next X amount of years towards $1 million. And if you know, that's a good theory. That's a good plan. If you're watching this from afar and you're not really sure what's going to happen, if you could get it right and you could accumulate massively more amounts of Bitcoin over not only the next 5 months, but over the next 4 years, and you know, understand what that happens 12 years into the future. And then I showed you 16. We're talking about creating generational wealth. This is how we're doing it. I'm glad that you're here to do it together. I'm going to play some Honeymoon over here, some Honeymoon vocals, and then we'll take it back and see if there's anything else I want to wrap this up with. Mic check, mic check. Those who've been here know what it's like when the end of Video Rant comes on with no sound. Year of the Bull. Yeah, big shout out. February, March, I said $50,000, $60,000 would likely be the next cycle bottom. That's exactly where I was putting it as well. I said around $50,000 is when I said it. right? And $55,000. And the reason being is like, if I'm putting something out there, I want to be as accurate as I believe is possible. I was over the weekend yesterday looking at this chart, and I just wanted to, it was going to be tomorrow, but Year of the Bull, step ahead. It was going to be tomorrow that I wanted to share with you. And I also believe the same thing that Miss Config is saying here. Now he thinks maybe it's going to be $65,000, right? And that's the page I'm on. When I'm looking at this chart and I'm looking what happened in past cycles, it makes sense that this area over here where the mid-cycle high was put in is going to be what the next bear market low. Now, if that happens and we have an 85% drawdown, I mean, we're potentially looking at something like $420,000 Bitcoin, right? But that's right here. That's within my sweet spot of the price or my price prediction. Here's the sweet spot over there, right? But that's well within the range. That's well within the range that CTM is putting out over here. 400. It's towards the top of the range though. That would be towards the top of the range, and it's possible, right? It's not only possible, it's probable if that is indeed what is the coming bear market low, and that we do have that 85% drawdown. So I'm prepared for it. I'm prepared for it from multiple vantage points, because there's a big difference in looking for perhaps Bitcoin to break $100,000 in 2021, right? And maybe something like, towards the end of 2022, higher prices, or the middle of 2022, higher prices, or understanding what's unfolding and how it's unfolding. Here you go. You could see the bear market low in the previous cycle occurring December 2018. Follow it back to the left, and you could see it was right above the high of the mid-cycle shakeout. Go back the next time into 2015, where you see that bear market low. Bring it back to the left, and you could see it was that first wave of the two waves in the 2012 cycle, the 2013 bull market. Is that going to happen again? I don't know. People didn't know if the golden ratio was going to hold ahead of time. A lot of people believe that it wasn't going to hold, right? Year of the Bull, sound and strong. Look, the advantage of a model is you expect it to hold, and then if it breaks, when and where it breaks. That's the advantage. But stop looking for things to break before they break. Try to actually, or what's worked for me, what's had massive results for me is front running this roadmap in this cycle, right? It's why I was looking for the capitulation bottom over here and called it as it happened in December 2019, and then 4 weeks later called the massive move up. Not because of anything other than understanding the 4-year cycle in Bitcoin, right? Listen, good session. This is high quality content put out each and every day, right? If you're not part of the family yet, if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do so. In the description below is also a link for a Telegram broadcast channel. I'll let you know whenever we go live. If you prefer to hit the bell on YouTube so that maybe or maybe not they notify you, you could do that as well. I'll see you all tomorrow as we do it again. Thanks for being here, everyone. Happy Monday. I hope you all have a beautiful day. One other important thing we need to talk about over here, Craig was saying, listen, glad to have you back, Jord. We're on. This week is not only business as usual, but now it's like focus, hyper laser focus. We got a couple of training sessions taking place together this week. Next one will be tomorrow, Thursday, both of them 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. I'll post the link in the announcement channels of the Discord. We'll do it then. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day. Thank you, Jan. Everyone, Miles, right? Justin, everybody. Thank you for making this so special. CTM all day long.